everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today I have an exciting video for you guys. You guys know that I absolutely love Pokemon. I am the biggest Pokemon nerd and I do not pass up an opportunity to draw Pokemon. So today I'm actually drawing the new Pokemon that has been recently announced, except it's not exactly a brand new Pokemon, it is a new form of a Pokemon. You see, sometimes with Pokemon, when they have different regions, they will have different variants of Pokemon from that region. We've seen this before with Executor, how in the Alolan Islands he is really tall like a palm tree, and there are a few other Pokemon like that, but I'm not going to talk about them too much because the Pokemon we're talking about today is Ponyta, most importantly Galarian Ponyta. So as you can see from my references on the right hand side of the page here, Ponyta is not how we remember. It's not the fire pony, cute little, flame horse that we know and love. This new type of Ponyta is more like a unicorn. It has this majestic cotton candy rainbow pastel mane that looks like clouds and fairy floss and beautiful things like that. And it has a horn, unlike normal Ponyta, the fire type, which does not have a horn. So anyways, this was pretty exciting and new and interesting, and I decided to jump on the bandwagon and draw this Pokemon today because I am very excited for Pokemon Sword and Shield, and I can't wait to use this little beauty on my team. So today I am using my iPad Pro and the program called Procreate, which is an amazing drawing app which I have for my iPad. It is amazing and it basically has replaced Photoshop at this point. But anyways, I decided to go with the screen recording style for my Procreate Speedpaint, mainly because the Procreate Speedpaints are a little bit too fast, and sometimes I like to show how I actually draw it and like me zooming in and like the different layers that I use and stuff like that. So that's why I decided to go that way. But anyways, so we have got a sketch here of two different Ponytas. As you can see from the references earlier, this Ponyta sort of lights up and like goes sort of rainbowy when it's excited or when it's powering up or something like that, which is amazing and majestic. But yeah, I wanted to draw the two different types where you could see it in its normal sort of state and then it lighting up as well. So that's why I decided to go and draw two of them, which is also a little bit inspired by the fact that we saw two of them playing together in the little live stream where they were announced. So for the background, I wanted to go with a sort of foresty aesthetic, the same that was sort of in the live stream where they were shown off. I wanted to sort of get that similar feel while also not just copying the drawing itself. So I actually decided to go with a little bit more of a painterly feel and a bit of a gritty texture for the background. I felt like that would help it stand out, especially with the cartoony like style Pokemon on top of this sort of slightly more realistic painterly feeling background. I really wanted to sort of just experiment with that a little bit and see what kind of effects I could get. So with this program I decided to use the oil paint and the oriental brushes for this, and they are really good. They're really nice to get a sort of a really soft painterly texture that looks almost like it could be traditional art, but it definitely isn't. And yeah, I just sort of had fun with just mixing around the colors a little bit. I tried to keep them nice and dark, mainly with blues and greens and like dirty sort of brown colors to try and get that foresty aesthetic, as well as adding a little bit of highlights on the trees here and there with a charcoal brush would help me get quite a bit of texture. So for the plants, I basically just copied and pasted some of the ones in the background, just, you know, because they're sort of just the background, and they would be covered up a little bit, and it would help me save some time here and there. But the plants in the foreground I drew as well. I did draw all of them, I just drew one and copied and pasted it, but the ones in the foreground are drawn separately because they would be a lot more noticeable. I went with my normal way of drawing plants, where I think they're ferns. I'm not too sure, I don't know plant terminology very well, but basically I draw lots of lines and then tiny little leaves sticking out of those lines, and then after that I add in some highlights and shadows just to sort of allude to this shape. After this I used a pretty cool sort of textured brush to get the ground. It's not exactly realistic, but it's this cool sort of an interesting style and I wanted to get that just to add a little bit of texture and to allude to maybe a forest floor type of look. And yeah, after this I got the line art back on here, and as you can see I am coloring it in with the colors of the Pokemon. Now of course I wanted to try and have these guys stand out from the background, but also still look like they are part of the background. So the colors on these Pokemon, where it's like that soft creamy color, I decided to keep it pretty dark and hint to a sort of green undertone in this. And especially the Ponyta that isn't lit up, it is quite dark and desaturated, and that was mainly just so I could have a lot of focus on the lit up and bright one. Now for the mains of these little guys, as you can see I've tried to go with a very slight gradient look, and I've actually decided to use the water brush to do this instead of an airbrush, and this was to sort of get a little bit of texture in there and have it look, you know, a little bit more interesting looking, because if I just had really soft gradients I feel like, I don't know, it would just be missing something. So I really like that water brush texture. I think it looks pretty cool, and it really helps just add a little tiny bit more I don't know, substance to the Pokemon. And I actually decided to use the same brush to sort of shade and highlight these Pokemon as well, just to sort of, you know, keep it, you know, all around the same sort of texture and look. After this I added some really bright highlights to the darker Ponyta, just to show that light is bouncing off this sort of lit up bright one and is going on to this other Pokemon, just to sort of show that they do, you know, go together and they are in the same room. And also just draw your eye to the other one a little bit, because I feel like the other one was sort of stealing the show a little bit. After this I decided to go over and add color to the line art. This is something I love to do, especially when I want to add a bit more like vivid brightness to the illustration, which is definitely something I wanted to do in this illustration. And yeah, I just used slightly darker colors of the item that I was actually coloring in. So the tail and the manes have like blues and dark yellows and sort of dark purpley pink colors, and the body has a very slightly darker version of the body color as well. And I made sure to have the darker Ponyta still have a darker sort of line art around it compared to the like bright lit up one. Now there was one part of this illustration where I forgot to color in the line art, but since doing that I have actually fixed it up. However, I haven't exported it or anything, so you're gonna see one little mistake which is already fixed, so don't worry about that. But anyways, so yeah, after this I just had some little lighting effects here and there, just the shading of the hooves, adding lots of little sort of light effects in the scenery around them, and having like a little bit of a brightness underneath the Ponyta that was lit up to show that it is really sort of in the environment. And I really love the light bubbles and stuff like that I put around here, especially since I did them at a very low opacity, so they're not overly noticeable, but you can see them, and I feel like it really helps to put like this sort of ambience into a sort of perspective, if you get what I mean. Anyways, so just final touches here and there and we are basically done. So here is the final results for this illustration. I love it so much. I think it's so adorable and I had so much fun drawing this. And I can't wait for Sword and Shield. I am so excited. And yeah, So I just want to thank you guys again for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please hit like and subscribe and let me know below if you're going to play Sword and Shield. If so, what Pokemon are you going to catch for your team? And what is your favorite Pokemon in the whole entire world? I want to know below. So thank you again for watching. Hit that like, subscribe button, and I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone!